First question of the week comes from Mark Fellows, who asks, as a former 155-pound champ and revenue generator, does Conor McGregor deserve an immediate title shot despite competing only once at lightweight over 4 years ago? When you start talking about Conor McGregor, you're going to take everything with a grain of salt, right? He's an anomaly. The guy has accomplished things for the sport that nobody else really has. He's the biggest straw in the sport's history. He's an icon. He's somebody that hundreds of years from now, people will still remember. So you need to take that into consideration when it talks about the when you talk about the UFC's planning. So when you insert a word like deserve in that question, I mean, it's hard to say that he doesn't or does deserve it because he's such a unique fighter. But, without beating around the bush, I think it's an argument that can be made even on merit, right? So if you look at the UFC's 155-pound picture right now, there's a lot of guys that Khabib beat, and it's likely one of them would be put into a title fight should Khabib officially give up his 155-pound title. I think McGregor versus Poirier would be a justified title fight. I think if Gaethje wanted to fight somebody for the title, or if the UFC wanted him to fight for the title, justified. Charles Oliveira has earned his shot. Tony Ferguson is out of the mix. Dan Hooker, needs to kind of get the ball rolling a little bit. So Michael Chandler hasn't fought yet. So I think it's a justified title fight if the UFC wants to turn around, make this UFC 257 main event title fight. I'm for it. It's not just because of the McGregor effect. Second question comes from Renflo D. What's going on with Khamzat Chimaev? What's next for Leon Edwards? So two-part question there. I think the first one has been answered this morning. It's Wednesday here, so when you guys see this, it will be 2 days ago. But Khamzat Chimaev, COVID-19, that is the reason for his withdrawal. He's still having some lung issues with that. So that question's been answered. But Leon Edwards, where does he go from here? The UFC and Leon Edwards have, no pun intended, had a rocky road this past year. And I think it's going to maybe continue here because Leon seems to want to fight on that January 20th card. He's waited long enough, and who can blame him? I mean, the guy has been out of action for quite some time, but he sits at the top of that division still. And it's not his fault that this time around, it's not his fault that he's not being able to fight. So to me, I would like to see somebody step up, step in there. It's probably easier said than done to get a big name, a top contender at 170 pounds to take that fight on short notice. But I just think, at this point, you got back-to-back cancellations in 2 months, both because of COVID. Let's get these guys to fight when they can, when they're able to, when COVID is not an issue, when there's no injuries, when there's things like that. When these guys are able to fight, let's book them. I think Leon deserves another opponent. As for who? That's another question. Third question comes from Rasab Singh, who asks, given the likes of fighters such as Colby Covington and Jorge Masvidal in the welterweight division, who yield a significant drawing power, do you ever see Stephen Thompson, Wonderboy, getting another crack at the title? He could. He very well could. But I think, and this isn't just, this is no slight to him. This is not a diss to Stephen Wonderboy Thompson. I think he's going to have to be damn near perfect in order to be able to get one. I mean, he's got Father Time working against him. He's got a laundry list of contenders that he has surrounded himself in the division with that are all perhaps maybe a little bit more of a draw than him. But he's a guy that you can always throw on headliners. You can always give him big fights. Nobody's going to complain. Nobody's going to say, oh, Wonderboy's headlining this card. So he's going to be in the conversation, I think, for quite some time, but he's got to win at least one more big fight to be considered. And you look at the top of that division, you got Masvidal, you got Colby Covington, guys that draw. You've got the champion Kamaru Usman and Gilbert Burns are going to tangle up pretty soon. So it's going to be tough. I'm not going to rule him out, but he's got to be perfect. Last question of the week comes from Matt Mack, who asked, UFC on ABC, a COVID anomaly or a sign of things to come? So if you guys missed it, last week, myself and John Morgan reported that the UFC's January 16th card, headlined by Calvin Kattar and Max Holloway, will likely appear on ABC. This is the first time that the UFC has appeared on network television since departing from Fox. So it's kind of a big deal. From what I'm told, and a couple of sources, I think John was told something similar, that as of right now, this is a standalone event, that the UFC does not have any more ABC events scheduled, at least on their books right now. I know that there hasn't been an official announcement even for this card, but for planning purposes, this is kind of a trial sort of deal. So I don't know if it will be something we see again. Seems like it's certainly not out of the question. but you got to see how the first one goes first. Appreciate everyone that sent in questions this week. Please keep it up. We'll need more questions in 2021. This is not a 2020 exclusive idea. This is going to be running all next year as well. So thank you for everyone that submitted questions all year long. Much appreciated. Stay tuned to MMA Junkie's end of year coverage and beginning of year coverage in the coming days.